Hey, welcome back to the channel. I know you guys haven't seen me in a long time, but everybody's been asking me how the back surgery went and how I got to this point. So that's essentially what we're going to go over right now. If you guys didn't know, I actually had a lower lumbar fusion, L5-S1. I am 6 weeks post-op yesterday, and so I'm actually feeling pretty good. Haven't had any pain meds in a couple of weeks. I still can't move, bend, twist, all that good stuff, but for the most part I'm pain-free-ish. Every now and again I feel weird pain somewhere, but we're going to go over first how I got to that point, and then I'm going to use pictures for reference on what they actually did inside my body to attempt to fix me, which as of this point, cross my fingers, it feels like that I'm fixed, at least compared to what I was. So about 6 years ago, I got in a mountain bike wreck. I split my helmet in half, shattered my collarbone, did some elbow issues, but then I started having lower back pain. They wanted to give me injections, all sorts of stuff. I actually ended up getting a, what do they call it? A diagnostic injection, which I thought may have worked, may didn't, but may have not, or may have worked. I couldn't really completely tell. The next step would have been to get an actual nerve blocker injection. Outside of that, they weren't really talking about much. And they had the MRI, they had the x-ray, and they just weren't talking beyond that. They said, this is really all you can do. It's a, if it does work, it may only work 6 months. It may work 5 years, or it may not work at all. And I essentially was like, well, at that point, what do I do? So I ended up not getting it. I said, you know what? I'm just going to deal with the pain. Fast forward 6 years from that point. I believe that was 2014. Fast forward to about a year ago, I started the problems. Obviously, SWAT could have played a part in that, let's just say. Tons of gear on my back constantly for the last 5 years. That may have been played a very small or large part. I guess you'd have to talk to a doctor to figure that out. But anyway, I digress. About a year ago, started getting worse. The pain started getting debilitated. The movement and my body started getting debilitated. And if I could only describe it as if your back's motion was determined by a let's say, cable, okay? If I was to stand up for any given amount of time, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, as I stood up, it felt like that cable or that nerve, my entire spinal system would just sink onto it, and then I would lock up. So if I stood up, I'd start to feel numbing pain after 2-3 minutes, and then it would be very difficult to move around. And then if I went to bend over, it would be hard to get into the bend. Once I got into the bend, I could actually touch my toes, but getting back out of the bend was very painful. Same case if I was laying flat. So if I was laying flat, the same thing would happen. It would just feel like everything was compressing on some nerve, or it would just be a lot of tension back there. Started on the right side, eventually went to the left side, and then it was just all the way around. I did not have a ton of radiating pain down my leg. In fact, almost, let's just say none down my leg. I had a little bit in my right buttocks, but that's the extent of it. It was very isolated to the lower back. I eventually went in to the doctor, who said insurance isn't going to do anything unless you do physical therapy. So I said, okay. And mind you, in the last 6 years, I've done chiropractor work, I've done massages, I've done stretching. I did jiu-jitsu for a very long time, which actually did help the motion of flexing all the time and such. But yeah, I said, okay, let's go to physical therapy. So I went to physical therapy twice a week, Mondays and Fridays, and to the dismay of the physical therapist, every time I would come back in, they would be like, how you feel today after yesterday? And I'd be like, the same, worse, actually. And they were very like, really? I'm like, yes. And I don't know if you saw so let's say your disc should be this big. My 2014 MRI was this. My 2020 MRI that was my disc. There was literally nothing left. So essentially what was happening, what I later found out what was happening is there's channels on either side of the spine that the nerves go through. Yeah. Ooh. Anyway, there's channels on either side of the spine that the nerves go through. With no disc, it was essentially collapsing on those nerves and just creating constant pain. So when I sat down, it relieved those nerves a little bit. And then as soon as I stood up, it collapsed on those nerves again. Plus, with a lack of disc, the disc could move and then touch other nerves that were running parallel to the spine. So after physical therapy did not work, and with some really jacked up scheduling as a result of COVID, I finally got an appointment, and the doctor said, we're going to go ahead and fuse you. So I'm going to pull you into the computer, and we're going to kind of go over what they did. So stick with us. Okay, so here we are. A little bit different. I got some headphones on. I'm going to show you over here. You can actually track the mouse to see where it's at. So what I'm going to show you is the first skeleton thing that the doctor showed me to tell me essentially what they were going to do. If you look at this bottom, so here's the spine. These are actually different versions. So this top one looks like it's a plastic version. We never really talked about that. This one looks like a cage of sorts. And then this bottom one looks just like a bracket of some kind. But anyway, this is the actual one right here. L5 is L5, this is S1 down here. This is the disc that I had that was essentially gone. So what they were going to do is they were going to go in he explained it, they're going to go in the front through my stomach to expose, that would be a separate surgeon, to expose this section. They were going to dig out whatever was left of the old disc. And the problem spots, and then they were going to separate it a little bit and put this disc in. Look, as you can see there, screw it into the place on top with one screw, screw it into the place on the bottom with two screws, and then essentially the stomach doctor would come back in and sew me up, and then they would flip me over. What they would do next was take these bolts and screw them in through the back and then connect them so that essentially nothing would be moving anymore, left to right, front to back, or down and up. Then what they would do is inject either bone chips or some sort of synthetic bone growth inside this, so that whole thing would become one. So that's the initial, what I was told initially. If I was going to have surgery, this is what's going to happen. And I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty extensive. And then it came down to us doing it. So, and all this was happening while I was trying to sell a house and buy a different house. So it was somewhat stressful, but we ended up making it work. So fast forward a little bit, I was scheduled for surgery on a Wednesday. The Friday before, insurance calls and says, we're not going to approve this surgery, which is like a $200,000 surgery all said and done. My doctor calls on Monday. Again, I'm having surgery Wednesday. Calls on Monday to the surgeon hired by the insurance company, and they essentially said they don't want to do it. They don't want to pay for it because he's using too expensive material. He wanted to use a titanium cage, and we'll show you a picture of what that kind of looks like here in a minute. And he wanted to use a synthetic bone growth. They wanted to use bone chips. He explained to me that there's no guarantee with the plastic because it's malleable in your body. It's much better odds if you get a titanium one because it's metal. Also, the bone chips sometimes don't work and your body rejects them, but the bone growth actually works much better. I might be screwing all that the way he described it up, but that's what I remember him saying. And I said, whatever you need to do to get done, if I need to pay out of pocket or whatnot, then whatever, I'll do it. But I want you to do what you originally had set up. So that's essentially what we ended up having planned. I actually did some research prior to surgery happening and found essentially this right here. So not exactly what I had done. If you L5-S1, this is a herniation, which I did not have. I had no disc left. L5-S1. This is a herniation disc, which is pushing on the nerve there. But very similar. This graphic is to show a fusion, which is what I had. So instead of this, and this shows right here, if you look, it shows an incision on the side. That's not what I had. It went through the front, and I'll show you that graphic here shortly. So through the front, get rid of all the tissue. Here in this bottom picture, put the new disc in, or cage. Here's the bone growth. That's putting the bone growth in between so that it all fuses together, and then sew me back up, essentially. So I'll walk you through. So Wednesday, 8 a.m. surgery. I have to be there at 6 o'clock. Show up at 6 by myself with a mask after my COVID test from last week. And, fast forward a little bit because I had some issues with, they wanted more money, etc., etc. But anyway, I get in. Both surgeons come in and greet me. They say, hey, how you doing? Everything's good. Checking my vitals. They explain the surgery one more time. They say, hey, he's going to come in. He's going to separate all your guts, essentially move them aside, all your nerves, and he's going to be done for that time being. I'm going to come in as the back surgeon, and he's going to do exactly what I described. So 6.5 hours later, 7 hours later, I wake up, catheter in, extreme amount of pain, and I have, let's see, this. That is just above my crotch and below my belly button, and that is suture tape. And that is where essentially my guts were pushed aside. There's another picture. This is actually like a week later. You can see a little bit of discharge coming out, but I guess they don't use staples or stitches anymore. They use this tape, which ironically enough, you can actually see in this picture, I started to have an allergic reaction to the actual tape itself, which ended up turning out really bad because this is what happened after I removed it. It blistered up pretty good. Anyway, first, so I wake up. This is the first picture. Some of you might have seen it if you're on IG. First picture, I say, hey, I made it. I made it through surgery. No problems. I didn't die on the table, which is a positive. So, first day, let me rewind a little bit. Wednesday's surgery. Doc says, Wednesday morning surgery, should be done by midday, Wednesday. He goes, if you can show that you can walk by Thursday afternoon, I'll let you go home. I go, oh, cool, man. I'm a trooper, right? I'm a stud. I can make that happen. Wednesday night, the nurse comes in and says, hey, we need to have you walk before, or our nurse's assistant, we need to have you walk before you can go, so they want you to walk before you go to bed tonight. I was like, really? I was like, I'm pretty jacked up, dude. Like, I can't move. Like, I don't feel good. Like, I don't know if I can do that tonight. So it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, all right, whatever, let's do this. I'm on pain meds. Meanwhile, I haven't eaten since Tuesday night at 5. I had a steak and some potatoes. I get up and I walk. I walk maybe 100 yards, and I walk back. I laid back down. That wiped me out. I went to bed. Anyway, proceeded. I was feeling really nauseous. Like, pain was coming like every 3 hours. I was on 10 milligrams of oxycodone. Miserable. I was just pure misery. They come back in. My blood pressure's high. It's low. It's all over the place. They come back in, I believe, the next day, like 10 o'clock, and they're like, hey, we need you to walk. Your physical therapist people come in. They say, hey, we need you to walk. You can't get released until you walk. And I go, yeah, dude, I don't feel so good. I'm nauseous. I sat up. I felt like throwing up. I'm like, I don't think I can do this right now. They said, well, we need to try. You can't leave until you do it. And I go, okay, well, I don't feel that great. And then I kind of laid back down. And meanwhile, a doctor sees this. He comes in. He goes, check his blood pressure. And so they check my blood pressure. It's like 95 over something. Like, it's miserable. He said, no. I go, put the covers back on this guy. You need to come back later. He needs, and then he ordered some stuff to go in my IV. So I crashed out again. Was it that same day? My days are mixed up now that I'm 6 weeks post-op, so some of it's a little iffy. But they ended up coming back and trying to get me to do it again. I felt slightly better, but still nauseous. And I go, hey, listen, I still don't feel that great. They're like, just let us. They said, let us walk to the door and back. I don't know, man. I'm feeling really bad. So they get a bucket and they said, no. Here, check this out. We'll get a bucket. If you have to throw up, they're hooking me up to the thing. They give me a walker. I go, okay, but I'm telling you, I don't feel good. And there's two people this time. So I walk to the thing. I walk back. I sit down and I throw up over everyone, all over myself, all over them, all over the bucket. It overflows. I'm like, dazed. They clean me up. They're holding me up. They clean my sheets up. They replace my sheets, and they're like, okay, well, that's clearly not going to work out today, so we'll do it a different day. And I think that was that might have been Friday. It might have been Friday that all happened. Thursday night. I don't know, man. The days are confused. But anyway, so now it was Thursday. That was Thursday night. So obviously I'm not going home Thursday. So the next day, still miserable all night. I'm starting to have anxiety, panic attacks type stuff. So they're like, okay, well, so they give me a little bit of Valium. They say, don't take it, drop your blood pressure, don't take it with the pain meds, at least, separate them a little bit. So I get that knocked out. Meanwhile, I still haven't eaten. It's Friday, 10 o'clock, haven't eaten anything. I'm like, hey, give me some food. So they give me some crackers. I go, let me have some Jello or something. Because they tell me I have a liquid-only diet. So they give me some Jello. They give me some applesauce. They give me crackers, which evidently they shouldn't have given me. And that's the first time I'd eaten. So Friday morning, the first time I'd eaten since, or maybe it was Friday midday. The first time I've eaten since Tuesday night. So I'm starving, but my body's starving, but I'm not. Like I'm miserable and nauseous. I don't want to eat. Stuff that down. So Friday midday, late afternoon, another physical therapist guy comes in, and he said, "Hey, totally nice guy this time." He's like, "Hey, man, if you can't do it, I mean, whatever. You're gonna have to stay here though. So if you don't think you can do it, we're not doing it." I'm like, "Okay." So I was actually feeling better at that point. I said, "Okay, let's give it a shot." So I ended up walking. I walked the whole top floor of the deal, and they said, "Okay, that's good." So they notated that. Um, Notated that. Say, "Okay, cool, you're good. At least you've gotten that out of the way." So then the nurse comes in. Hey, I go, "Hey, can I eat, man? I'm really hungry." She's like, "You haven't eaten?" I'm like, "No, not since Tuesday." She's like, "What the?" Let me call your doctor and make sure you can have something other than liquids because it says you have a liquid-only diet. I was like, "Okay." So he says, "Yeah." He said, "Go. If he thinks he can eat, let him eat." I ended up getting chicken noodle soup. Kept that down. I got some other little snack stuff I didn't think would upset my stomach. And the at that point I'm like, I'm doing pretty good. Um, you can't see it. You can't see it in this picture, but my blood pressure's doing really good. I'm not doing as bad as I was doing before. Or no, here it is. My blood pressure, 126/76. And I'm chilling. I'm actually not doing too bad at this point. Still a little bit of nauseous. Pain is extravagant. I mean, it's every 4 hours, 10 milligrams of oxycodone. I actually switched to Vicodin for like 2 doses because I thought maybe the oxycodone was. I don't want to take the Valium, and I thought maybe the oxycodone was giving me the anxiety. Turns out it wasn't. So I took 2 Valium while I was there. They gave me Valium to take home. I think I took it one other time, and I ended up being okay, and I kind of stopped taking that. But so they end up the next day. So now we're on Saturday. Meanwhile, I thought I was leaving Thursday night, not Saturday. Uh, so Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, not Saturday. I'm in my 4th day at the hospital. And the guy comes in and says, "Hey," he's the same guy that I did the walk with comes in. He says, "Hey, you got to do stairs." Uh, before you can go home. You live in a two-story. You got to do stairs before you can go home. I'm like, okay, I think I can do it. He's like, if you think you can do it, let's do it. So I do it. I go. He puts me on one of these things. Um, I just go up. I go down. It was easy. It was out in the lobby, and he goes, okay, if you think you can get up a flight of stairs here in the hallway, then we will let you. We'll schedule to leave. So I'm like, let's do this. Takes me to the corridor or whatever where the stairs are, and walk up and down the stairs. Weak, super weak, but I get it done. I walk up the stairs. Something to note as well, the first 2 days I was there, I was wearing these compression socks they put on you prior to surgery, and then after surgery they put these, or did they put that on before surgery? I think they put it on before surgery because I think those were going while I was in surgery. So they compress air. They start at one end and then they go to the tops of my calves and then go back down, just to keep blood flowing in my legs so I don't get any blood clots. Before I started the burn at this point started to happen on the sutures. You can see on this one, you can see the itching starting, and then also on my back. There's two of them. This is the one, and then I think this is the right one. That's the left one, but you can see it was burning my skin. That's just something to note. So anyway, Saturday, doctor comes in and says, "Hey, you're good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and say that you can leave." He schedules me out to leave, and I end up leaving at like 8 o'clock. Mind you, so the day I leave, I took meds at like noon. Here's something to note as well, just so that you don't get caught up in this. I should have taken the painkillers. I should have gotten my prescription at the hospital. I chose to get it at my Walgreens. Problem was, I didn't get home till 8. My Walgreens closed at 6. And I called another Walgreens and they said no because it's a narcotic. So I get home at 8 o'clock. The Walgreens closed at 6, I think, and didn't open till the next day at 10:30. So that would have been almost 24 hours without pain meds. Unfortunately, I had to deal with that because it's a narcotic, oxycodone. I was doing 5 milligrams at home, and they would not give it to me. I had to get it from the Walgreens that it was originally prescribed to, which, man, it made it miserable. So anyway, didn't get my pain meds till the next day. The first week was rough. Hard to sleep. I was taking pain meds every 5 hours, whatever it was, 5, 6 hours that they told me I could. Obviously, I couldn't move. Mobility was rough. I didn't use the walker. I think I used the walker to get in my house, and after that, I really didn't use it. I had to wear the back brace. In fact, I'll stand up and show you. I'm still in it. This kind of tightens it up. Anyway, I got to wear that for the foreseeable future. Anytime I'm out of bed and doing anything. I'm not supposed to drive, really, until I got to my first appointment. 2-week post-op, I got an appointment, I got an x-ray. He said everything's looking good. I asked him to drive. He said, usually we don't let you, but I mean, if you think you can do it without twisting, then so be it. So I did get to drive a little bit after 2 weeks, but now I'm at 6 weeks. And I just called yesterday to get my appointment for 6 weeks. And they said, no. You'll probably be out of work another 6 weeks. So I don't know. I'm going to have to argue that point because I don't know. I don't want to be out of work for 12 weeks. They said you can't even go to desk duty for 12 weeks. And then after that, you're going to be out for another 4 months when you go to desk duty. So for a total of 6 months of not full duty. Going back to what he said, that insurance wanted a plastic disc and everything else. So he ended up using a 3D printed titanium disc, which looks about like that, but with screws, one screw top, one screw bottom. And so I'm going to give you a view of my initial x-ray. It's hard to tell, but the disc is not this one. You can actually see there's a pretty decent gap there, but it's right there. I mean, you can't see it because there's really no disc there. So that's what created that problem. So this is the after. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so there's a good zoomed picture. As you can see, the disc here, this is the new 3D printed titanium disc, and this is the screw you can see going up into the top vertebrae, and then you can kind of see there's a bottom disc, I believe, going to the bottom there, and then here's the uh, it's all connected right there, just like in the other picture, just like in that picture. You can see these big. They're kind of bulkier in this picture than they look in my actual picture, but those are zoomed in. Um, a little too much. But yeah, those are the two bolts going into the vertebrae, and then there looks like that's the cable that's connecting them. And if we could go to the back picture, let me zoom that in as well. And there's another view of um, the cage, and then the bolts connecting everything together, preventing movement. So yeah, that's pretty much it right now. That's where I'm sitting. 6 weeks post op. If you have any questions, I kind of jumped around a little bit more than I'd like to. But if you have any questions, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I know this is a different video than you're used to with me. Obviously, I do a lot of gun stuff and self-defense stuff, but I know a lot of people are asking, and this is the best platform for me to kind of um, let you know about this without cutting it down too short. So if you made it through this whole thing, I appreciate it. If you like what you saw, or you found this is good information, or you like the format of the video, shoot. If you just like me, give this a like, give it a subscribe. It does help me out. I'm trying to do this a lot more. Although I've taken a few months off because of the surgery, I will be getting back into this and doing a lot more. I'll try to do another one tomorrow in reference to some of the more prolific cases that we've been seeing in the news lately. But